Hello there, welcome back to the newsroom here on France 24. It's just gone 9:15 here in Paris, which means that the European markets have been open for just over a quarter of an hour. Our business editor Owen Fairclough here in the studio for a roundup of the business news, starting with those markets.
Indeed, Catherine, good morning. Yeah, the IBEX, I think, having its best start to the week so far in Madrid, up around 0.8% at the opening bell. Remember, many of these European markets have made double-digit gains, certainly in the case of Madrid over the past month or so, so a pretty good August so far. On the Asian markets as well, some reasonable gains. The Nikkei closing up around just over 1%. The Hang Seng not too far behind. The Nikkei, in fact, is up 5% for this week, so another market enjoying a reasonably good summer as well, helped by the fact that the Bank of Japan has kept interest rates on at record lows for the time being. You mentioned, Catherine, earlier on, it's 5 years to the day that the credit crunch officially started, certainly in the eyes of many people. It was the day, in fact, that BNP Paribas, the French bank, pulled the plug on 3 hedge funds it had invested in the United States, concerned about the value of subprime mortgages. And that phrase, subprime mortgages, rapidly became the subject, I think, of dinner table conversations around the world.
Yeah, most of us didn't really know what it meant at the time, did we? But we know all about it now.
Absolutely. Quantitative easing, subprime mortgages, credit crunch, all these phrases suddenly came to the fore in that time. I put together a little timeline for anyone who needs reminding of the tumultuous events that followed after that. Remember, you had Lehman Brothers going bankrupt in September 2008. Not long after that, of course, this became not so much a banking crisis as a sovereign debt crisis, with countries like Greece, Ireland and Portugal forced to go for bailouts. Greece, of course, 2 bailouts. And then it brings us back, ironically, perhaps in some ways, to now, August 2012, where we've also got a banking crisis with Spanish banks needing around 100 billion euros and various scandals around the world engulfing banks like Standard Chartered, Barclays, HSBC. So you might say, well, has anything really changed?
Well, exactly, yes, and the regulators perhaps getting a little bit tougher every day. Perhaps not dramatic changes, but creeping in. Maybe.
Well, that's right. Many people would say, you know, what has really changed? Has anything actually developed since that time in 2007 and 2008? There are little signs, though, that financial regulation is taking root. Banks like Goldman Sachs have been forced to reposition their businesses, largely because of new legislation in the United States that stops them, for example, from effectively betting with their own assets, the kind of money that retail customers put into the banks, and those have been ring-fenced to stop banks playing fast and loose with that. Of course, you've still got a Eurozone crisis that is showing few signs of actually pulling through. But you are seeing these bailout funds taking root. Yes, they're taking a long time. We're not going to see the permanent bailout fund up and running for another year or so, but the Eurozone does appear to be getting a slow grip on these things.
OK, well, let's take a look through some of the other big business news stories of the day. And we're sticking with the banks first off, because South Korea's financial watchdog is going to investigate local branches of both Standard Chartered and HSBC over money laundering allegations. The 2 banks have been charged by the United States government with laundering billions of dollars from sanctioned regimes like Iran, as well as Mexican drug cartels. Now, Standard Chartered says the amounts involved are a fraction of those alleged, while HSBC has promised it will improve its compliance.
News Corp has suffered a $1.5 billion loss in its fiscal 4th quarter as Rupert Murdoch's empire begins to break itself up. The media conglomerate's results were dented by nearly $3 billion related to charges for splitting its book and newspaper divisions from the more lucrative satellite TV and movie studios. News Corp also wrote off nearly $60 million it spent on continuing internal inquiries into the UK phone hacking scandal.
And the former governor of Mississippi is laying out another red carpet invitation for French tax exiles looking for a haven. The American Deep South state is following the British Prime Minister David Cameron by trying to woo French millionaires who are looking to escape a 75% top rate of tax. Now, the governor's called Haley Barbour, and he says he would even hoist the tricolour flag over a 17th century fort that dates back to when Mississippi was still French territory. Do you think he'll actually do it?
Well, I was about to say, if you are a French business and you're watching, you are thinking of taking up that offer, I'd be interested to know if you do get a French a tricolour welcome when you relocate to Mississippi.
Quite a big relocation, that one, isn't it? Thanks very much, Owen Fairclough, our business editor, with that latest roundup of the business news here on France 24.